Family, welcome back to the show. You know, this is your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn here, and we are in our summer interview series. And I am excited to welcome back Samiya Bashir. What's going on, Samiya?
What's up? What's up, Anna DeShawn? It's good to be back. Thank you for having me. Happy summertime.
Yo, happy summertime. Summertime shy ain't nothing to play with, you know. We get
Word.
about a month and a half. That's about
Take it.
it.
Take it.
We'll take it. You in New York, so you understand
Ooh,
fully. In a special way what winter is like. So yeah, enjoying the
yes, I
summertime, no
do.
doubt. And I'm excited to have you back. You know, family, you may have seen Samiya and I talking on IG around the Lammys and the book bans, and we didn't get a chance to really dig in because the more I learned about Samiya, the more questions I had about her journey and her work with Lambda Literary. So, Samiya, before we get into things, I got some fun questions for you,
Okay.
right? Because Queer News is on E3 Radio, which is our queer radio station. We playing queer music all day long, right? So I got mad questions about music. All right, here we
I'm
go.
ready for you.
All right, what's your favorite go-to karaoke song?
Oh Lord, my favorite go-to karaoke song. Um, well, it's weird because I think most of my favorite ones are kind of like group songs. Like I'm gonna throw down like some In Vogue with my sisters or something, or like or I'll completely embarrass myself with Whitney Houston and just because I just got to get it in, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Anything Diana Ross is always I'm gonna show up for. I like I
Okay.
like a I like a good killer ballad.
Okay, I see you. I'm here for the In Vogue though. I'm gonna
Yeah.
stick with the In Vogue. I like it. I can see it. I can see that happening. All right. Right now in your phone, what is the song getting the most rotation, the most play right now?
Um, right now, probably Jasmine Sullivan's "Your Feelings."
Oh, we in feelings. Okay. Yes,
Feelings.
indeed.
Pick 'em up. Take 'em with
As
you.
long as you ain't got to go too far back on Jasmine, because she'll have us busting out cars, windows, and all types of
Right. We're
things
not going
around
all
here.
that way back, but you can
Nope.
pick it while I'm up cleaning, she said.
That
You can
that's right. That's
stuff.
right. We have feelings. I love that, and I love actually where her career has gone. I'm so
Yeah.
glad of all the success she deserves. And then tell us, if you were out here and a musical artist, what would be the one dream collab you would have?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh shit. Well, I mean, the easy answer now because I just saw her like last night in concert is Erica Badu. Or, I'm just like, she's on some whole other shit and I'm always about it. And, I'm not always about everything she be talking about. She be coming out crazy sometimes, but don't we all? And, you know, she does that work and, that performance was on point and I love to see it.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for a Samia Erica Badu situation. Um, that's what's up. And family, if you don't know Samia, so here's the deal, right? She is an award-winning author, a poet, and currently the executive director at Lambda Literary. And I want to get into Lambda Literary work, but I also want to get to know you more. What comes to mind when you hear, what is a thing of beauty if not us?
Mm. So that's actually a repeating line in the title poem of my book, Field Theories. And I think that that's an important question, this idea of beauty, this idea like us, and us. I'm generally talking to us. I'm talking to Black people, I'm talking to queer people, I'm talking to Black queer people. I'm talking, talking to women and women identified people. Um, I really think that those of us who the world loves to erase need to be very clear about our value, our beauty, our necessity. That who we are is actually not just important, but the most important. And we can't forget that. We have to remind each other of that all the time. You don't
Yeah.
get to talk about beauty if you don't mean us.
Because as I was reading your bio, I saw things that popped out at me: Fire and Ink, Redbone Press. I'm like, these are legendary institutions for Black, queer, LGBTQ folks, in the literary space. And you have been at the center and sort of at the heart of that. So I would love to hear how Fire and Ink came to be.
Oh, that is such a great story. I mean, so I have to, you mentioned Redbone Press, and so I have to give all props to Lisa Seymour at Redbone Press, my publisher, published my first two books of poetry, and to have my first books published with a Black lesbian publisher was everything, who's made such beautiful books, bringing back Asado Saint's work, bringing out Sharon Bridgefort's work, etc. Like I could just go on and on and on. But you know, with Lisa Moore, with Reggie Harris, with Stephen Fullwood, with Marvin K. White, who runs Glide in San Francisco now, like there was a whole group of us um, who came together to kind of build this. The first Fire and Ink was 2002 in Chicago, and it was a really revolutionary experience. You know, it was the first time that there was a Black LGBTQ plus literary festival, that event, and there were hundreds of people came out, and to see your literary kind of superstars getting together with young up and coming writers, and mentorships forming, and people working through their work and having conversations, such important conversations, seeing each other and meeting each other for the first time, and placing themselves, feeling themselves in the context of our literary history, I think, was everything and is everything. And firing happened three more times after that, in Austin and Detroit, and our commitment was always to keep it in the middle of the country so everybody can get there. And rather than have it, kind of on the coasts, which are so much more expensive and much more less accessible to people that aren't there. And so that was really important, and it was really an experience of my life every time.
It's so important, right? As artists, it's just so important for us to have community, people who are
Yes.
doing the work that we're doing, who
Yes.
share the same values as we share, and to be able to be in the same place with each other and support each other is so important, because otherwise we don't see each other, and we
Right.
don't see our work, right?
Right, right. And we don't also get to talk about it, like, and put it again in context, in conversation with each other. We're not out here doing this work alone, actually, and we're not doing it without having the benefit of each other and all the work that's come before us. And so I feel like those conversations always need to be part of what we're doing. I talked with, through Lambda, it really allows me to speak with folks across the kind of queer movements, and be clear, like, we actually can't fight for our rights without, like, without engaging the arts. That's just not a thing that's possible or that happens. We need to be part of this conversation always, and cross those imaginary boundaries in order to kind of get all of us free.
I think that's a good point around art and activism. I feel like in the things that I've been reporting on Queer News, society and culture, arts and entertainment, I feel like have been leading the way when it comes to queer liberation, and
Yeah.
what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like when Alex Newell and Jay Harrison, I believe, is their name, won the Tonys recently,
Yes.
and just as beautiful as they want to be, right? And living in their full truth, right? And now we've got The Stroll that's on HBO Max. We've got Kokomo City coming out very shortly in theaters, in this month, July. I just feel like when art leads, and tells the stories of our humanity,
Yes.
eventually the politics comes along. But I feel like the change happens with the people and in art way before it happens in legislatures across the country.
Absolutely. I mean, I say it a million times. We are the culture creators, actually. When we're looking at queer writers, especially, we're the ones who are creating the culture the rest of us are living. When we create something, it changes the conversation. We actually change the language on a daily basis. If I snap twice, now everybody's going to snap twice, because that's just what, you know what I mean? Like, this is who we do. And yes, of course, we pave these roads that then other people can follow and walk along. And I think that it's important to kind of, this is why it's so critical to support uh, the writers and cultural creators, so that they can do their work, so that they can live, you know, in whatever realm of safety we can kind of make possible, so that they can have the support and have the introductions and have the mentorship, coming up soon is with Lambda is our emerging writers retreat, and bringing together, we have 8 different cohorts of writers from fiction and nonfiction, young adult, sci-fi, screenwriting, playwriting, all of this. It's about kind of bringing emerging writers together, helping them connect with people in the industry. All of that is critically important. So we have this amazing faculty and fantastic writers in residence, and it's a life-changing experience. To be bringing it back in person for the first time in 4 years is kind of everything. We've moved it to Philly. We've got it on a campus where we can all kind of be safe in our kind of bubble, but also turn up and do our work. And I'm really looking forward to it.
And you said agents are going to be there as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We've got agents, we've got publishers, we've got, writers who are more advanced in their careers, working with people who are just coming up, and the people in the middle who have been through this process, who are going to be writers in residence. It's a really wonderful program, and it's a solid week where it's from July 30th to August 5th. We'll be in Philly. And, we have readings that'll be open to the public too. So take a look out for us.
I wish I was going to be in Philly.
Yay.
So so that sounds really dope. What I feel like we miss the mark sometimes on is how we actually make a living doing art.
Exactly.
And so that's why I was like, you said agents, because that is how folks actually can live, is to get their work published. And,
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing when we are gifted with these gifts. But when you have the gift, you really do have to try to figure out how you can live if you want to do your gift all day long, every single day.
I think that's one of the things that, for me, especially looking forward the next couple of years with Lambda, is doing more of that kind of how do you make a living work, bringing people together, working with production houses, working with the theaters, working with the publishing houses, getting people internships, getting people jobs, getting people, in writers' rooms. Like how can we make these connections more real so that, working with higher education, some people want to teach, some people don't want to teach, some people want to write for television, some people, how can we make those connections happen? Because you don't have to either do, the kind of work you don't want to do that keeps you away from actually making what you need to make. You have to support yourself. And we need these writers to make their work. So how can we support that in making that happen?
And I'm imagining that this direction at Lambda Literary is all because of your lived experience as an author and a writer, and the things in which you wish you had maybe, or wish you had more of,
Yes.
In your own experience.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming.
But I listen a lot too. I mean, I'm really specific about asking writers, hey, what can Lambda do for you? Like, what do you wish you had? What do you wish you need? When you were coming up, what do you wish you maybe had access to that you didn't have access to? Education and access is a really critical part of our work at Lambda, especially moving forward, as is kind of like the idea of excellence and achievement, which is putting together the Lammys, putting together even the retreat, which is a little bit of both. Our newest program that we're growing is Learn with Lambda, where we're going to be offering a lot more writing workshops, a lot more craft conversations, a lot more book club stuff, and a lot more kind of like pipeline to the jobs kind of spaces. We really want to be able to offer that to our community and offer it to industry who needs us.
And good people tuning in, we started this conversation, and I'm just assuming you know what Lambda Literary is and what the work that they do. But Samiya have been talking about it, so I think you got a good idea. At the heart of it, they champion queer authors in all ways in which we show up in that space. So that's the elevator pitch. Is that
and
right,
literary
Samiya?
artists across the board, right? Because there's long been the focus on books, which we're never losing a focus on, especially these days when our books are being criminalized all over the country, and our writers are being chased down, etc., and like banned from their readers who need them. But also the fact that we take in literary arts in so many different ways, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through, streaming television, whether it's through our music, whether it's through our films, we're writing all of this. And, journalism, I want us all to kind of come together and have a home space where we can support each other and empower each other's work.
And the last time you were here, we were talking about the Lammys, and we were talking about your outfit changes.
Oh yeah.
And and the first time, and because it's gonna be the first time in person since COVID. And so, how did the Lammys go? Was it everything?
It was everything. It was everything. Oh my goodness. It was such a good time. It was so wonderful to see people together again. And, it was a huge turnout. It was much larger than we actually had planned for. And, so that meant that it got a little stuffy in there sometimes because it was packed, but in the best possible way, and I'm so proud of everyone, all of the finalists, all of the winners. I'm so thrilled and happy for everyone. I'm so grateful to everyone whose work went into this, not only the whole staff, the whole board, our host committee, all of the people who were judges. It's all independently judged, and the writers who came out and supported each other. One of my favorite moments in the Lammys again and again was seeing all of the finalists cheering on each other for, like whether they won or didn't win. They were all fans of each other too and wanted each other's best. And it was really exciting to see that community come together.
What was your highlight of the evening?
Oh, highlight of the evening. There were so many. How am I supposed to answer that?
I ain't trying to
Oh
get you
my
in trouble.
goodness.
Okay, top
I
three.
know.
Top three.
Well, I'll tell you, like, first of all, so Jason Rodriguez from Pose was one of our presenters, and he had just recently won the legendary ball voguing competition, and he came
Oh.
through and gave us a whole dance up to the stage. That was everything. It was everything, everything. Oh, some of my favorite literary heroes were there. I can't even start naming them. I have to name everybody. But I do know, like,
Mhm.
Cheryl Clark, who's a poet who was one of the first, Black queer poets I got to read as a young person. And she was one of the last presenters of the night and just had the house in stitches, cracking everybody up. Our community is rich with talent and with like really beautiful people. And having Alison Bechdel there presenting the award to Maya Kobe, whose book is the most banned book in America. Alison Bechdel, who knows very, cartoonist, Fun Home, etc., Dykes to Watch Out For, who knows very well about the book banning life because her own work has been banned all over the place. It's just, we're dealing with really important things and we also get to celebrate.
Yeah. And you brought up an important point there around the book bans. The last time we talked, you mentioned how there's this like small percentage of people who are actually banning the books. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the majority, 90 some percent of the book bans in America can be traced back to 11 people. 11 people who somehow have the power to tell 330 some million people what books they have access to read it's nonsensical and it's not okay. And we can't keep allowing this to happen. We just can't. Especially when, who are they coming after? They're coming after queer people, lesbian, gay, bi people, transgender people, especially. And don't let them be people of color. You put those all together, and that's where they don't want our perspectives. They don't want our words. They don't want our histories. They don't want our voices. They don't want our lived experiences. And they, quite frankly, don't want our lives. We're not going to be standing for that. We're working with so many of our partners to fight back against this. The ongoing book bans, the ongoing kind of bans about like just transgender existence in general, much less being able to tell your own story about it. It's something that's picking up at an astonishing rate. There are, every year you're seeing the number of books being challenged and banned double and then triple upon the year before it and more. It's not just not going away, it's getting worse every year and we have to fight back.
How do we fight?
First of all, we have to get loud. We have to be talking about it, just like right now, what we're doing, because I think that people don't really understand unless they're in one of those districts the real depth of it, and I think it's also interesting how difficult it can be to grasp when it's happening right in even in your neighborhood. Because if you don't have kids in school, or if you aren't really part of the kind of, if you just go to the library but you're not hanging out with the librarians and talking about what they're going through, if you're not dealing with city council, you don't necessarily know what's happening. And we need to be talking about that, because when people hear about it, they're outraged. 70% of parents, this is just parents with kids in schools, are absolutely against book banning. Now, that doesn't mean 30% are pro, but it means 70% are absolutely not. And 70% of parents with kids in school is a whole lot more than 11 people who get to tell them all what their kids get to read and what their kids get to learn and who they get to hear and connect with.
I think that's such a great point, right? So grateful I live in Illinois, in Chicago, the first state to ban banning books. So
Yeah,
our governor, right, just passed legislation. It'll go in effect in January 2024. If anybody in this state wants to ban a book, then they don't get state funding, right?
right, right.
And I think that legislation can just be copied and pasted across the country in states where folks really do believe in democracy. Like, it's one thing if you don't want to read a queer book, don't read a
Don't read
queer
it.
book.
Don't read it.
This is like the land of the free, right?
Right. So one of my
Yeah.
cousins actually recently was elected to the school board in Illinois. It's just like
Mm.
we actually have to be a part of this conversation. She was an educator for many, many years. Those of us who do understand what's happening, who have some sort of a sense of this, and we're bringing this information to our communities, need to be a part of it and share that. Like, not just talk about it, but you might need to show up, especially if you live in a smaller kind of a district space. You might have to show up at a meeting. You might, and make sure that your voice is heard. You might want to make sure that you talk to your neighbors and your friends and say, hey, this is going down, and we need to call somebody or something. It's going to take us 10 minutes to send this email or make this phone call or show up to this thing and make sure that we're there. Because the other side that is really working hard to shut our voices down is not afraid to show up, is not afraid to bring their people into the space, and we need to be not afraid either.
Do you think we're angry enough? Do you feel like we're fired up right now?
I think we're tired. I think we're busy. I think the pandemic has worn a lot of people down. I think it's been a hard few years. I think people are dealing with a lot, and trying to take on more is hard, right? But the problem is it just gets harder when we don't embrace it, when we don't engage with it, and things get swept past us that, when we look back and say, wait, how did we let that happen? Well, we let that happen because we're tired and we're overworked. And, and it's hard to pick up so many more pieces. And that's why we have to do it together. If there's 10 pieces to pick up, what if I don't have to pick up all 10 pieces? I can pick up one, and you can pick up one, and you can pick up one. And together we've got it, right? But we've got to do that. Together we got it.
Together we got it.
Yeah.
That might be the title of this episode, because I don't know if we do that very well.
Well, we can do it better. And I believe it's something that, like, we want to do. We just have to remember that we want to do it, and again, like, I think one of the things, about our current kind of cultural situation is it kind of really keeps us isolated and keeps us away from each other. That we talked about the Lammys. When I talk about how important it was for us to be together, Jacqueline Woodson, groundbreaking, every record-breaking queer author, especially young adult writer, was just like, it is just so queer up in here. It feels so good. Lily Wachowski, our Visionary Award winner, she made The Matrix. She made this. She was just like, it's so good to be around other queer people. Like, we need each other. And, and when we come together, we're pretty unstoppable. And there are also more of us. When we talk about the people who are, the people who are the haters are really in the minority. Everybody else who wants a world where we can all live our best lives and be free is the majority. That's most of us. But most of us are also being kept isolated and busy and tired and all of this. And so what we need to do is support each other through all of that. And that allows us to get to the place where we can fight back.
I love that. And I think you're exactly right. I think how we fight today is so much different than how we were taught how people fought back in the day. So I think when we think about what people were doing in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s is one thing, but what we have to do today is a little bit different. And it happens in these like social media spaces where for some, I think for others, it happens in boardrooms and in board meetings. I think for other people, it happens in the street and people who give of their bodies. I think what folks don't often understand too is that everybody's role is important in
Yes.
this. Like wherever you show up, even if it's you raising your kids, it's like such an important job. Like you with your children, like raising good humans.
Yeah.
We just need
Right.
more good humans in the world. All of this work is part of the work.
And there are a lot of ways that we do things differently today, but there are also a lot of ways we've always done things that still work well, right? Like
Mm.
if we used to have a thing, well, this is even predating me a little bit, but like the phone tree, right? Where like, all right, we've got to call 100 people in our community. I'll call five, you call five, you call five, you call five, etc. And why something like that still actually works today is because people most people are not doing something because they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to do because nobody's told them, nobody's asked. And what we need to do is actually just reach out and be like, hey, there's this meeting that's happening that they're trying to ban all of the books in our library, and it's only an hour. Can we go? Like, I need to get people there. Can you go? Can you call your family and have people go? Like, that's the kind of thing. Now, putting that this is happening on social media is important. Sending it direct messaging to people is important, especially when you say, "Hey, you, my friend, will you come to this with me?" That's important. One of the ways we defeat isolation is directly reaching out to each other, not just to the larger kind of matrices of media, but to each other. Me calling Anna DeShawn and saying, "Hey, I need you,"
Hmm.
and he's saying, "I'll be there.
Yes.
Put together, we got this."
Yeah, so there's a couple of sisters here in Chicago who are legendary for these parties they used to throw back in the day, which I
Yeah.
hope they throw another one so I can just experience it in my life. But when I talk to them about like how they threw these parties and how they got women to come to lesbian parties when they were getting raided and
Mm-hmm.
it was not safe to be who they were out in the world at all, even in
Yeah.
Chicago, they would say, "We called people, Anna. We showed up at people's houses. We knocked
Yep.
on people's doors." I was
Yep.
like, "You did all that for a party?" They said, "Yeah,
Yes.
that's why we tired. That's why we don't want to throw no more parties." All
Right.
right. She was like, "I don't know what y'all doing on this social media." That really resonated with me because it's just not how I grew up. A
Yeah.
text message, if you text me, I feel like I just talked to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I was raising money, I was clear I had to pick up the phone and talk to people
Yeah.
because it is about relationships
Yes.
and it is
Yep.
about building relationships.
Yeah.
And some of that can happen on social, but the real stuff happens when you talk to somebody, when you hear somebody's voice, when there's an exchange.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the exchange. It's not just
Yeah.
the like receipt. I've spoken and you've received what I've spoken, but the exchange. Now you speak and I hear you, and now I speak and you hear me, and we actually come to some sort of agreement about time and space and what's happening in the world. Like it's a little bit different.
It's a lot different. Yeah. So tell me, let's talk a little bit more about Lambda Literary real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, we talked about the emerging LGBTQ authors retreat. We did a
Mm-hmm.
recap of the Lammys.
Yeah.
What else is coming up for Lambda Literary? How can folks support?
So much. Well, we're just finishing the school year with our Writers in Schools program, where we serve. We're the largest organization in serving New York City schools with bringing queer writers into the schools. We bring books, audiobooks, ebooks, and hardcover books to the students. They get to read these books, and then we bring the author into the school for them to talk to and meet with. We also have writing workshops for some of the older kids. And we just had our first anthology. We just published our first anthology called Seen Heard of our from our writing workshop teens. It's a fantastic collection. These kids are no joke. They are thinking and they are feeling and they are sharing and they are writing through their lives in such powerful ways. And I highly suggest like just go on our website and pick up this book. It's really you're going to be really glad to see where the kids are going these days. And so, as we prepare for next school year, we're also looking at how we might want to expand this program in other places in the country. It's so successful here in New York, and I think if I were in second grade, and got to read these queer books and have these queer authors come to my school and talk about it and it be normalized and like, like we all get to engage with these stories, whether it's again, second grade children's books, 10th grade, young adult books, whatever it is, it's a game changer for everyone. Everyone gets to be a part of the conversation. You don't, whether you're queer or you're not queer, queer people are a part of your world, and our stories matter and are part of our world. And so that's just critical. I mentioned expanding Learn with Lambda so that we can bring a lot more kind of things to our community of writers and readers to exchange. I'm working with the American Library Association now. We're about to launch a whole like 9-month book club, Dangerous Reads, looking specifically at queer and trans writers of color and their works. And, we'll have a new book every month, and we're going to go and travel and sit and talk to that author and talk about like what does it mean to have dangerous literature in our community and how do we engage that.
Okay, I'm going to try to recap because that was a lot. And that was a lot of really dope stuff. I think the one in schools is so important. I think
Hmm.
the normalizing part of it that you mentioned, it is so important. We're everywhere. So why
Yeah.
not also in your books, in school, in an opportunity where you can be around others who are having hopefully healthy conversations around the
That's it.
content
And
and
talk
keeping
about it.
it and talking about it, right?
It's the pretending we're not there. It's like kids are not dumb. They know, they see that, they see their teachers or their people in church or their people at the library or at the donut shop or whatever, but to act like they're not there, like these queer people don't exist, is a disservice even to these kids and their idea of trying to understand the world around them. It's like, no, let's talk about them. Let's talk about their lives. Yes, she does have a wife. What is that? And they live in a house that's like your house. And they, you know what I mean? Like this is a part of the world and we get to talk about it rather than kind of hide the world away from kids when what they need most is to learn how to live in it.
Absolutely. And then what's this dangerous book tour?
Yes, yes, we're putting that together. Starting in September. We'll be announcing dates and everything in the next month or so. I'm really excited about it.
I
Yeah,
think
working with
that's dope.
the new first out lesbian president of the American Library Association, Emily Drabinsky, and ALA, which is based in Chicago, where you are. And their queer caucus just had its 50th anniversary. And we are going to be launching this program with them that I'm really excited about, specifically, again, highlighting queer and trans books by writers of color.
Love that. I'm sure y'all coming to Chicago. I cannot wait.
Yeah, so we are.
Make sure I am in the know so we can let our queer news family know about the tour as well. I think the work that y'all are doing at Lambda Literary is really, really dope. It's like far reaching. There's programs for artists, programs for the kids in school, programs for everybody who is interested in queer literature
Yeah,
in all
yeah.
ways. So I think it's really dope. I think Lambda Literary is really lucky to have you as their ED,
Oh,
and I look forward to you coming back when y'all got something else going on. That you come back on the show.
I sure will. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, always good. Oh, before you go, Samiya, tell the good people where they can follow Lambda Literary, and if they want us financially support, where they can do that too.
Absolutely. LambdaLiterary.org. And you can also check out the Lambda Literary Review, which is our review magazine where we review books. We have interviews, we have articles, we have profiles. We have our monthly, like, most anticipated list, which is the most anticipated new queer books every month. You want to find out what to read? Come to lambdaliteraryReview.org. And you'll find that list there. And you can sign up for our newsletter, get the stuff in your email. And if you go to lambdaliterary.org, I hope you'll click that donate button and help support the work that we're doing. The majority of the money and the funding that comes to Lambda Literary goes back into the pockets of our community.
Period. And so that's why you should do it. So
That's right.
thanks again, Samiya.
Absolutely. Thank you.